Well, once again I did it. I did a full tutorial showing you how I painted this bar of soap, this blue pansy, as requested by a reader, and I forgot to turn on my camera microphone. So I will do it on this board. See, I drew around the soap so you get the proper sizing, and now I will get my palette and load it. Here's the paint left over from the former tutorial. I am going to use some blues for the pansy. Let me back up a little bit so you can get these in the camera, focus it. And then here is the lighter blue. That's Sky Mist and Cobalt Blue. The greens I use are my two favorites and I use them frequently. The dark is the Thicket and the lighter is Fresh Foliage. These are Folk Art Plaid multi-surface. You can paint glass, wood, soap, and canvas with them. I will have wicker white in here as well. I'll use yellow ochre and daffodil yellow as well, and a tiny bit of licorice, which is black. Now I'm going to use for the pansy and leaves a number 8 flat. This is a Donna Dewberry flat 1-stroke size 8. It comes in the multi-pack that I have linked on my blog in the supply list. Now I'm going to load up my palette and then I'll come back and I'll start with the leaves. As I do with all of my tutorials on 1-stroke, this is how I double load. I dip one corner in the dark, one in the lighter color, and I blend in on the palette until I'm satisfied I have enough paint in my brush. You're going to make not a long stroke, but you're going to be brushing a while on here, so you want a good amount of paint without it being gloppy. Now I always kind of start my stroke 1, 2, 3, and then I make a scallop leaf. I have full tutorial on my scallop leaves with a video. Now there's the dark on the outside of this stroke and the lighter color on the inside. Now for this side, I have the dark to the inside and the lighter to the outside. And I come to a point. And that creates the veining, and I like the contrast rather than the light against the light and then dragging in a stem. That's just my personal preference for leaves. And so then I will go and I will do, I'm sorry, I can't. When I did the bar of soap, I just turned it so that I was in a good position, but I can't turn this big board properly. So I'm just going to come around the camera and try not to kick it again. So there is, I'm kind of at an awkward angle because I'm working around my camera. But there is my second leaf. So there is the start for my bar of soap, like I did with this one. There's the leaf and there's a leaf underneath the flowers. I like doing my leaves, instead of budding them up to the flower, I like them doing first and then they end up lying beneath the flower, so it looks like the leaves are coming from underneath. That too is a personal preference. If you would like to paint your flower on and then paint the leaves next to it, that's certainly an option. I'm going to let these dry and then I'm going to come back and start the pansy. Alright, the leaves are mostly dry. I probably could dry a little bit more, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Now I'm going to start on my pansy. I'm going to start with the darker color, which is the cobalt blue, to the outside, and I'm just going to do a scallop stroke. And then I'm going to reload my brush and blend it in. I'm not going to show you because it's the same as I always do and I showed you at the beginning with the leaves. And I'm going to start here with this lighter color in the corner, and I'm partially over the other scallop stroke, and I'm going to make another scallop stroke. Now I'm not getting a lot of contrast there, and I could choose to let that dry and go over it, but I'm just going to continue on, and I'm a little low on my lighter color, so let me put some more out. Okay, so I'm going to get the lighter color on my brush as well. And now I want to keep my corner always right there because I'm working around that center point. This time I have the light blue on the outside and I'm doing another scallop stroke, and you notice how it's overlapping that back stroke. And I'll do the same for this side. I'm going to kind of go backwards, and I'm not really good at backwards, but we're going to do it anyways. Oops, I'm sorry. I needed that lighter side on the outside. So I'm going to kind of go over that as best I can. Now you notice it's getting a little gloppy in the middle because I'm just dragging that dark color around, and it's not being spread out. So I can just mop it up like I just did. I'm reloading once again, the dark and the light. Now this stroke is, sometimes I do 2 teardrops, which makes a pansy, but also I do 1 large stroke, scallop stroke across the front of the pansy. And I could have come down a little bit further. And you notice on this one, I was further this way than I was on this one. Also, my pansy turned out a little bit smaller here than on the bar of soap. But that's okay. That's why we have the filler flowers. Or I could come in and even do, I could go over the pansy, make it a little larger. Or I can come in and add more leaf. Like this. And you just go over it. And there you have fixed your floating pansy. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back and do the center part, and then we'll do the daisy. Well, you know what I can do? Pardon me. I can do the little buds that are sitting up on the corner. So I'm double loading my brush again. I had gotten a little gloppy there, so I rinsed it out. Sometimes you can just dry pinch it out. You don't actually have to go to the water and rinse it. But I've double loaded it again, and I'm going to do the little buds. And it's just an upside down teardrop stroke there. And then here's another one. Now this one, the end got a little morphy. And then over here, we'll do one. And then I'm going to get my detail brush or liner brush. Make sure it's good and damp. And I'm just going to run it in the green a little bit. And I think at the end of this video, I'll attach where I actually did this on the soap. Even though there's no sound, you can see how I did that one. And I'm just going to do the little tendrils, bud, and stems, and it's not even flowing. What is with that? Okay. I try to keep my lines light. I have a tendency to be heavy-handed with a liner, so I really try to have a delicate touch. And then this one. And then just some little tendrils. Little curly cues. And for some reason my brush is not holding a point. But I could have the paint too thick and not watery enough. And then maybe a little tendrils coming out down here for the fun of it. Alrighty, so I don't think the center is dry enough, but we'll try it. Can't hurt. Of the pansy. I'm taking yellow ochre, and since I'm not going to use a whole lot, I'm just going to dip it out of the lid with my liner brush, and I'm just going to get kind of a center there. And I want some little black whiskers, so I'm going to do the same with the licorice black. And I have a good amount of water in my little brush, dipping in the lid, and then I'm coming to my palette. Let me see if I can get that in here. And I'm just dragging it to a point. And I see I have too much water in there. So I need to mix the paint in it more. A little more paint, too liquidy. And now I'm getting a good point, it looks like. Without it being too fluid, I hope. And if it is too fluid, I'll have to come back and fix it. But let's see. Because this is not dry yet, it's not going over it. So right now I'm just spreading this light blue a little bit with my brush. I'm going to have to go ahead and let that dry before the black will actually stick. And let's see what else. I think everything else needs to dry a amount before we can continue. So I'm going to get my blow dryer, quick dry it, and then I'll be right back. Well, it looks like it's dry enough now, so I'm going to start painting the little wispy whiskers that come out from the center, kind of radiate out along this bottom petal. And that looks good enough. So now I want to make the little line that goes like an upside down V over the center. I'm just getting a little bit of white on my brush. Make sure it's going to make a skinny line. I just needed to add a little water there. Okay, let's see. Upside down V. And then we're going to put a little highlight right in the center with a lighter yellow. You remember that first center we put in there was yellow ochre, and now we're going to go in with the daffodil yellow and give it just a touch of a highlight. A little spark of bright color. Now we're going to do the daisies. I'm going to switch to a number 6 flat 1-stroke brush. And again, I have the white paint. I'm not going to be using enough to pour out some, so I just come into the lid. Now I'm dipping my brush into the lid and work it into my brush on my palette. And I'm going to just do, since on the soap I had more room over here. I did the 3 little petals, 3 daisies there. On this one, I have more room over here. So I'm going to put the 3 daisies on this side. One is a full daisy, and I kind of overlap the pansy, and I do one of my 5-stroke easy flowers. It's a head, 2 arms, it's a little man, and 2 legs. A little man stroke. And then I'm going to do some partial daisies. Not partial, I should say, they're like facing away, so they're not going to have long petals in front, they're going to have little stubby petals. And there's 3 daisies there. On the soap I had them overlapping more, but that's okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this rather than try to walk around the camera. And I'm just going to make this, whoops, wrong direction. Sorry, one moment. The beauty of acrylic paint. You can get your fingers in it. Okay, here. Right on the corner of, I hopefully had that in the camera. And not my hand in the way. Who knows? We'll see. Okay, so we're going to do the centers with yellow ochre. Just dab it on there. And then we will highlight that yellow ochre with the daffodil yellow. Just a little touch of the daffodil. And there you have your pansy and daisies. Bar of soap painted on wood. Okay, now that should be it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to go ahead and watch the video without sound or me talking of me painting the actual soap, you can go ahead and it will be right after this. All right, see you next time.